Hello there, and welcome back to TerraFirmaCraft HardRock. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I had a great birthday. Thank you for everyone who wished me well. So, I have been a little busy. You can see I've got a bunch of stuff lined up right here to craft. We got a bit more stuff in here to craft up. I've had to rearrange stuff a little bit so I could do some side projects, but we are just about ready to make the NASA Workbench. Now, we still don't have the means to make the rocket fuel, so that will have to wait. But I have done a little bit over here. I was debating expanding the fusion reactor. For every one assembly in there, we can burn the fuel at a rate of 20 millibuckets per tick. Sorry, 1 millibucket per tick, so 20 millibuckets per second. I've increased the burn rate here, so that is 1 millibucket per tick. And, well, we are burning the fuel as fast as we can pump it in. And actually as fast as we can produce it without applying any upgrades. I can apply a speed upgrade and an energy upgrade, though I don't think there's efficiency upgrades here. So we can speed up the process. It will make the fuel faster. But until we do that, there's really no point in making the reactor bigger because we're using the fuel as fast as we're making it. On that note, I have been turning it into polonium. We have a lot of polonium now. So this is going to keep running. And actually, I say it's going to keep running. We are almost out of space in our turbine's battery. So I'm going to shut down the reactor. Let the fuel build up. We'll run down the battery a bit and then we'll turn it back on. We were producing around 5,000 Fe per tick in here. Now that we're burning more fuel because, well, we burn the fuel, it burns hotter, produces more steam, more power. So that's what we were doing over there. And I've also gone through the process of kind of automating a few things. If I click on our controller here, you'll see that we have the external hard drive, which we set up last time. And that's hooked up to our controller over there. And so we, of course, can access everything from our drawers over here. I've also hooked up importers, 2 of them. Actually, let's do this first. If I go into free cam mode, actually, I gotta be careful. If I do that, the jetpack on, I can suffocate. Let's try that again. So we have our cable running under here and our power cable running under here. You can't really see it too well because it is all underground. But if we go all the way over here, and of course it's right outside the render range. So let's go fly over. I have the power, the cable all running underground there to right here. The power runs to, if I can get in here, thank you. This electric motor from the Create add-ons, we made that before. It is this here. So pretty cheap. We have that maxed out on its RPM. We have the power going in. And that goes to a clutch, which right now is turned off. Then into a large cogwheel, which is set to 60. And that powers the drill. So now the drill is running through electricity, not through Create steam. And so by throwing the switch, the redstone link switch that we have back at our base, we can turn off and on this drill at will. And everything that gets produced by the drill goes into this chest, which will then get brought back to our storage system. Just like that. And then we did have a uranite chunk over here. So I've done the exact same thing right over here. The only problem is, for some reason, the redstone link does not work from our base to here. Even though this chunk is loaded. You see it's force loaded. The chunk is always on. This is always on. It is not getting the power from the redstone link switch. So this remains permanently on unless I come over and turn it off manually. So that's what I've done here. But same exact setup. Power goes into the motor, into a rotational speed controller, because otherwise it's not producing enough rotational power to power the drill. And we only need one thing of water now, so yeah, it's a little more compact. And it uses the power that we're producing from our generator instead of having to continuously run over here to refuel the steam engines. Now, I do have the steam engine still set up for some other stuff, but yeah, we've automated those two, and we have everything coming back to our base and going directly into storage. As you can see right here, we have a drawer that has our uranium and some iron, and then we have our galena and our limonite. So that's all going directly into here. I made a compacting drawer, and that is taking all of the andesite loose rocks that we get and compacting them into andesite cobblestone, because we're getting a lot of andesite. Every cycle gets us, of the drills gets us andesite. And also, if you look at this here, there's a little lock on the drawers. That is this configuration tool. You can lock, you can show and hide, you can render. So what we can do is, well, what I did was, if we unlock this, if one of these slots were open, anything could go in there. If we lock them, we can now pull everything out, and it'll remember that, well, this had oat seeds. And so if we put the oat seeds into our system over there, they'll immediately go back into here. Now we can also do, we can hide the amounts. We can hide the rendering. I think this hides the upgrades. Yeah, that hides upgrades. So the thing is, with these storage drawers, or functional storage drawers, whatever they're called, they do cause lag, especially when you have a lot of them and they all have images on them. So if you're on a server, you might want to go around and hide what's on the drawers so that it's less stuff being rendered. It causes less lag. Not as big a deal for me, being, you know, single player world, but that is something to consider if you're playing multiplayer. Alright, so let's craft up our fusion reactor frames. We needed 2 crafts of them. They are the atomic alloy, which we've shown multiple times, the polonium pellets, which we make in the pressurized reaction chamber with fluoride dust, the polonium and water, and a steel casing, which I've also shown many times. So that's going to get added to our bunch of stuff over here, which means the only stuff we need to make now are the assembly drills and lasers, which I'm working on, and the programmable controller. So let me just check on what's in here, because I don't want them melting. We got a little more time. So the programmable controller, we need a drone. The drone requires turbine rotors, which are right here. So we need 4 of those and 1 finished PCB. There we go. Now we've got a drone. Just stick that in there for now. Double check this. Okay, you know what? Let me work on this stuff because they're ready. That's actually pretty easy. And then we'll get back to everything else. Alright, that's done. So let's get back to this. So we have our drone. We now need to make a couple of other things. We have our compressed iron there. We need another PCB that can go there. We need this network registry, which is this one right here. So that's some lime dye, plastic, and a chest. Then we need to make a remote controller. That is a bunch of this stuff in here. So to make the remote controller, we first need to make a GPS tool. We've made this before. We need to make the Abedron, but that's plastic, diamond, glass, redstone. Then we need to give that an I/O network, a network data storage, and some transistors. That's what this is. So gray dye, plastic, chest gets you the network storage, and then capacitors, cyan dye, and a chest to give us the I/O port. Toss it all together, we now have a remote. And I accidentally opened the remote. And the last thing we're going to need is an advanced pressure tube. So this is a little interesting. There are two ways to make it. We either need 20 pressurized chamber valves using the laser program, which is what we have set up right there. Or if we had a laser and a drill, we can make it using a compressed iron ingot. I do not currently have a drill. I do have the laser drill program. But there's a little cheat here. You can make the 20 pressure chamber valves by putting a compressed iron block through the laser program. Oh, wait. Oh, never mind. That's the drill program. I don't have the drill. Well, that's gonna mess up my plan a little bit. So I need to make the drill anyway. Well, that's what I was making these for, these cannon barrels, because I need to make a bunch of pneumatic cylinders so I can start making 2 new drills and 2 new lasers. I had that backwards, but you get the idea. I guess I have to go do that before we can move on to the next step. But once we do that, we can make the drill to make the advanced pressure tube, and then we can put all this back together, make the NASA workbench, and then never have to worry about it again. Alright, we're just about ready here, so let's make these 4 PCBs. We need to make a whole ton of those. 2 there, 2 there, then we want 6 there, and the other 6 here. So that gets us 2 more drills. Well, 2 drills. I haven't made any drills yet, and 2 more lasers. We're going to take one of these drills temporarily, stick it there. This should be valid. This has my drill and laser set up in it. If I put the compressed block there, it needs more pressure. Okay, so plug that in. That will start to pressurize some more, and then hopefully this should start running as soon as it hits 3.5. Which means I can now tear all of these down and start setting this wall back up, and I need a one that's in there so we can build the NASA workbench. So for the workbench, let's move that to the top. We want 4 by 5 at the bottom. What's a 5 by 5? We want these 3 there and those there. And if I go back up here, I can take off that one, that one. That was not the one I want to take. That should be it. All right, so now I have to start loading all of these up again. But we will have the NASA workbench now. All right, let's see if this is working. Oh, it's done. Perfect. Well, we missed it, but it's done, so we can put that there, and that gives us our programmable controller. Now, we could use this programmable controller to program drones. I don't have any drones set up, so we're not doing that. I do have drones. I've got one right here, logistics drone. But that can wait till the future. We needed the drill back. Thank you. Okay, that should be the NASA workbench. Now I just need to give it power. Oh, well, that overstressed it. I can solve that problem pretty quickly. Ta-da! NASA Workbench. Oh, I hit the wrong button. I was going to take a screenshot of it saying NASA and I messed up. Alright, well, there we go. We have the NASA Workbench. We can build a rocket ship now. We just don't have the means to fuel it yet. I'm going to have to build a launch tower. I mean, I don't need to. Just do that for fun. There we go. Now we can tear that down and use it for other crafting projects again. And I just toss that in there because I'm not going to need it for a while. And toss that in there. Okay, so now, not the hard part, the time-consuming part. I need to burn through an insane amount of uranium. Speaking of, yep, I'm processing down just a little bit more uranium. This isn't even all that much. I had a stack over here, and I keep, you know, processing through all this. Make a bit, stash it, make some more. I need to make the induction cell. For this, I need to make lithium. And for the lithium, I mentioned I need to make a thermal evaporation chamber. This is not too bad. And there are two methods that you can make it. You make it a 16 by 16 base with a 4 by 4 opening in the middle. Editing Arkwolf here. I'm literally watching through this and just face palmed at what I said. You need a 4 by 4 base for 16 blocks in total. And then the inside, you need a 2 by 2 opening for 4 blocks in total. So you do 16 blocks on the bottom. Then you do 12 in the middle layer. One of them has to be the evaporation controller, and I think 2 of them need to be the valves. I double check. And then you do a third layer of more of the casings, another 12 of those. And that's the basic layer. You can then do a advanced version, which includes these advanced solar generators. These aren't too bad to make, especially considering where we are right now tech-wise. I could make these. If you do that, it does speed up the process by quite a bit. You will need 4 of them. So that might be our next project. Because that will allow us to make the lithium, which we're going to need for the mech suit that we want to make anyway. Basic cells or the upgraded versions, which are pretty much just bigger batteries. But yeah, this is my life from now on, producing all the uranium. At least this stuff isn't radioactive. I was going to cut it there and, you know, end the episode, but upon editing, we're only like 18 minutes in. So let's do something else. I have everything here to make the thermal evaporation chamber. So we got to put the brass casings there and some copper sheets in there. Apply them to the casings. We have to do copper, then slime balls, glue. I've got latex, it all works. And then steel, and then latex again, and then copper again. And that gives us 3 thermal evaporation blocks per craft. And we need to make a total of 50. So that is like 16.66 repeated crafts. So we're going to have like 1 extra block. It's fine. To make the basic layer 1. We can then make the advanced later on. Not going to worry about it now. But yeah, so here we are. We got to do all of these. Once those are done, and it's going to take a minute, I have our 2 advanced control circuits we need in order to make 2 of the thermal evaporation valves. And then I have 2 more advanced circuits, glass, and a bucket in order to make the controller. And also, while that's going, I have put together everything I needed here in order to make an absorption hopper. So to make the ender eye, or the eye of ender, we need to melt something ender in the meltery and apply it to a blaze powder. To get the ender juice, whatever, we can use a enderman skull, same way we got the blaze, what was it? The blaze blood by melting down the blaze heads. I used a enderman head that I had. But you could also do a dragon head if you can get one from the end, which we haven't gone to. I think ender pearls. Yep, ender pearls also work if you can manage to farm enderman. So we do that. We add it to a hopper, 3 obsidian. This gives us an absorption hopper. Okay, so what's cool about this is if we take a chest, we put it like right there, put the absorption. I want to place on the top and I placed on the side, but whatever. Put it right there. We can tell it to absorption hopper. We want it to drop items down. Okay. This is right to be refreshed. We then grab some gravel and we do this. We're going to have to reposition this a little bit, but it picks up the items that drop. So if we drop these on the ground here, they just go straight into the hopper and then into the chest. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a line out from here, have another deployer over here with a chute on top and a pair of chests on top of that. And then what we can do is we add all this gravel into the chest. It'll automatically be applied to the sieves through the deployer. And then it'll all be automatically picked up by this chest. And then in the future, we could run another cable under here to the chest along with another importer. Yep. And it will pull everything from the chest and directly into our inventory system. And that's all of our evaporation blocks. Thermal evaporator blocks. So we need 8 in order to make the 2 valves that we're going to need. And then we need 5 to make up the controller. And now let's fly over here. Doesn't need to be over here, but this is a open area, so might as well do it over here. I will be... Do I have more concrete on me? I don't. It doesn't matter. We want a 4x4 on the bottom, as I failed to say earlier. Then we want that controller here, that there, and our 2 valves there. We finish this off just like this. And so that is now the most basic version of the evaporation plant. We can make it taller by putting... no, we can upgrade it again. We need another 8 evaporation blocks to go up here. Does that invalidate it? It does invalidate it, so we can't do that for now. And then by putting, as I mentioned earlier, the advanced solar generators on each of these corners. And that will allow this to get hotter, which will process faster. So what we can do now is we can make brine, or we can take brine, toss it in, and create it into liquid lithium. So we can use TerraFirmaCraft brine, or we can make mechanism brine by adding water in here and letting that process. So let's go get a barrel. It can be any water. I don't think it needs to be salt water. It makes sense if you could use salt water, but I don't think you can. And then we need to pipe it in. Put that there. And I need a fluid pipe. Oh, there we go. Don't think it's going to work at night. It's not going to be hot enough. This does say a temperature of 26. So You know, I don't know if this basic setting is going to be hot enough. Well, this is how you set it up. I guess we're going to let it be overnight and see if it does anything. Well, we have to wait till the next day to see if it does anything. But that is how you make the thermal evaporation chamber. And how you're supposed to put water in it. Yeah, so we convert into brine, and then we got to pump the brine out, and then put the brine back in to convert it into lithium. All right, we'll let that run, see what happens. So it's been about a day in game, and this has made no progress. So we're going to need to upgrade this a bit more and include the advanced solar generators to them in order to get this to properly work. But I did notice that I don't have to do that whole convoluted thing with the pipes to get it to work. We can put a water source right there and fill it up also. But yeah, this not good enough. So I guess between episodes, I'm going to be making some solar power generators. The advanced solar generators. And a few more evaporation blocks and get this upgraded. But I think this is a good point to end for today. We've got a lot done, including our NASA workbench over there. Now we can start to get work on actually building a rocket. We're going to need compressed steel, nose cone. Compressed steel requires steel and HDPE pellets or sheets. And I've been making a lot of the pellets. That's enough for now. And we're going to need to make some engines, some steel tanks. Those are real cheap. And then we just have to worry about actually getting to the fuel part. Yeah, the antimatter, it's going to take a bit. And I'm also going to need to make some polonium pellets. So I'm going to need to create a new isotropic centrifuge and a pressurized reaction chamber so that I can take the nuclear waste, run it through the centrifuge to turn it into polonium. Same way we make plutonium. The same way we make polonium using the neutron activator. And then in a pressurized chamber, combine water and plutonium with fluoride dust to make plutonium pellets the same way we make the polonium pellets. I guess that's going to be what we do next time. Until then, thank you for joining me today. Hope you've had a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. Later. And actually, as fast as we can produce it without applying any upgrades. I can apply a speed upgrade and an energy upgrade. I don't think I can do an efficiency upgrade. Try that again. So this is a little interesting. There are two ways to make it. We either need 20 and the programmable